It says preparing to live stream. You should see it here in a minute. If you don't see it, just check it.
Oh, this is the original that they sent over. All right. Okay. It is 5 o'clock. Before we call a declaration of the forum, could we have a few minutes of silence? Okay. It is officially 5:01 on December 5th, 2024. Do we have a quorum? We have Mr. Oker here, Ms. Quattlebaum here, Ms. Lambert, Mr. Lambert. Let's have him marry Kevin. Ms. Austin, and okay, we have a quorum. We have 5 members present. We have 1 member who is absent. Madam Secretary, is there any citizens to be heard?
No, I have not received it.
Okay, so there's no citizens to be heard at this time. So I'm going to move on to the consent agenda. All items listed are considered to be routine by the board and will be enacted in one motion, and no separate discussion of each of these items will occur unless a director requests, in which case the item will be removed for the consent item and considered in its normal sequence of the agenda. I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda. Do I have a second?
Second motion.
Okay, I have a motion, I have a second. All in favor say aye. All opposed say nay. Motion passes. So if you let me. Good. Second is following. I'll pass these over to you. Good. The next agenda item is the Chief Appraiser's report. Mr. Soto.
Just take a financial snapshot. That's the only thing on here. This is a, as you know, to kick this out. As a percentage, really, you're just looking at the percentages of like what we budgeted, what's been spent, kind of thing. And if you'll just follow along, basically, January to October represents 83% or roughly therein of the year. You can go through each individual line item if you wish, but if you go down to the bottom, the total expense represents 78.8. So we're about 4 or 5 points, 4 or 5 points under budget right now. That doesn't, I think at the end of last year, we might have been 1.8% over budget. The year before that, we might have been a couple of points under budget. But this is just a financial snapshot for you to look at. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
I have a question, but
Sure.
It's not. Is there any way we can start printing larger?
Well,
I cannot see.
normally we would have printed like this.
Okay, either way, like 12.
Yeah,
10,
you got it.
6, 4 work for me, yeah, sorry. I'm just so freaking blind.
When it's this way, it's a little bit bigger.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mike, we have, on here, we have we have columns, and you have the one that says actual. What is you have actual January and October, we have 83%. What is what's the far column?
To the right?
Yes, to the right, yes, sir. It says 0.
So that's just a delta between the budget approved for the 24 year and what we've actually received. So the first section is revenues. So that very first, like 1, 2, 3, 4 line items is revenues.
I'm sorry, sir. If I it's this one right here.
Yeah.
That we're talking about. Okay.
It's this
slide in, sir.
the heading for that would have been the delta. It would have been the delta for the amount. So if you go to like benefits group hospital, the delta between 100,100 and 83,000 is the 16,944 and change.
Okay.
That makes sense?
That makes sense. Okay.
So one is represented as a percentage delta or difference, and the other one is represented as an actual dollar amount.
Okay. So copier and leases are up over last year, correct?
Correct.
We budgeted.
I believe Nancy and I talked about this, that we have the postage machine, that's like different, so we accounted for 25, at least I believe we did, yeah.
All right, that makes sense. Yes, sir.
Any other questions?
Mr. Oker? Nothing. Mrs. Quattlebaum? Nope. Kayla? Do you have any questions, sir?
Read it. Let me correct that.
What, is that a,
It's the same size.
Samsung?
Yeah, Z4.
What size?
That's for us people who run.
If you have a problem with the screen, go there then.
Okay, so to be
Yep.
All right.
I have a question real fast, just because I'm just now able to see it. So personnel services, are we looking like, we're gonna come in on that?
Yeah, personnel
Or did
personnel services, this is 24.
uh-huh,
So personnel services are coming in just right. It's 83% of the year, we're 82% of the budget, so.
right.
That's through October, through the end of October. We typically get our bank statements, what, like 10 days, something like that after the month.
I forgot this is through October. Okay.
Yeah.
There's no action item on this. So if everybody's satisfied, we can just move on to the next agenda.
Thank you.
Let's move on to the next agenda item, and it's discuss and take possible action regarding renewal of the district depository contract. I have a copy of that. It should be on the bottom, the bottom page here for y'all to look at.
I got an original that just came over, and I think that's the one we sent just recently, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's exactly the same thing I have.
Okay, excellent.
Okay.
To summarize on that, the Prosperity Bank was the award winner 2 years ago. You have the ability to renew for a 2-year contract. That's really what's in front of you. This is not and as a point of like reference, whenever we went out for contract 2 years ago, they were the only bidder. So they were the only one that just wanted to do business.
And that's what I understand also, speaking with the with the county treasurer too. What is, I mean, you don't have to know this offhand, but do you have any idea about how much money we keep in the bank account? at all
I
times?
don't have that information in front of me, and I was not prepared. No, sir.
That's right. I didn't think you knew.
That's all reconciled, I know, through the audit every year, the balance. So,
Right.
but I don't have that information in front of me.
Okay. Mr. Oker?
No questions here.
Colleen?
None.
Okay.
We're just renewing their contract.
And it's-
That's all.
So we have a motion to that action.
Well, yeah,
Just a big motion to.
I'm going to execute the contract.
yeah. Do I got a second? I second the motion. All in favor? Aye. All against? Passes. 6-0. Okay. Discuss and take possible action on comptroller's property value study and determination for APISD.
These are, this is just a statutory requirement. This is new for me because we've never failed to make property value study. Or been at not local value, is that the term, that you have local value, not local state value? So, it's a statutory requirement that, I inform you that we're out. We have the APISD, sweeper with us, for attending. And just a little summary of what we've got. The parcel count for the APISD that was studied was 1,395 parcels. It's a weird district because it's a split ISD. And so not every parcel within that split district is studied. 1,395, to give you a reference, Rockport, Fulton, 18,000 parcels were studied as kind of a reference. They're not all sampled, but they're studied as a whole, like they're stratified. In the local value that they attributed, we began with 2, like if you'll go down, well, the study looks at, this lets you know on that second one, the study looks at 116 properties, 49 are homes, 45 are vacant land, 22 are commercial. That lets you know how small of a study window it is. If you get one of those that you disagree with the comptroller on, you can be out really quickly. It's a very small district as far as the study is concerned. PTAD started with a valuation of 247 million in the study window. We got them down to 232. Not everything. We ended up being out 3.2%, and that's kind of like four line items down. What that means is they had a variance of plus or minus 5%. You could be plus high 5%, you could be low 5%. But what this essentially says is that we were out 8.2 points, or if you did that out, it would be 91.8. So they were saying that we should have been higher than what we were. Now, what's important for you to recognize, and you, Dr. Barnes, is that we didn't agree with the comptroller. We just basically said, hey, you like look at this and look at this and look at this. They disagreed with us. Even the margin of error through their own data set suggested that they should have a margin of error of 13% rather than 5%. If they were in 13% plus or minus, we would have been in by a large degree. We would have just gotten local value, everything would have been 5%. A thing that's important for you to note is the very last written line, 2024 values were developed and based on sales before the PTAD results were finalized. So even though we disagree with the comptroller, we don't let them really dictate to us. We just do what the data tells us. And so we didn't get the finalized results until we had already put out the 2024 notices. Now, what essentially happens? Essentially, what happens is they study us again. We've already gone through the 24 year. They've already gotten our data set. They've already actually asked for parcels that they're going to study. They do their calculations. We won't know those results until January or February of this next year. Our hope is that we're going to be in good shape. We pointed out some things to them that they, in principle, agreed with us. An example of one of these things is you either have sales that they analyze, or they do what's called appraisals. Well, on one of their appraisals, this is just one example, they appraised it at a number, and we said, well, that's all fine and good, but that property happens to be on the market currently, and it's on the market for less than what you say it's worth. And so it couldn't possibly be worth that. And if they use that data set, and if you look at the number of data sets that we have, it's small. So you get one out, it has a large effect. So the point to all of this is that we think we're right where we need to be. We developed those schedules for 24 based on sales, not based on what they wanted us, projected us to do, but just based on sales. And so it's my hope that we pass this next year. We won't know those results until January, February of next year. Any questions?
When you talk about, who did you protest this with? Was it with an agent of the comptroller's office?
Yeah.
It was like
property value study. It's the PTAD study. It's the PTAD.
right. But when you went, did you go up to Austin?
No, you do it. There's a set of documents that you have to fill out by a certain time after you get your results. One of the things that you have to do is you have to get permission from the school district in question. Normally what you see in a 1, 2, 3 year failure, we're not there yet. We've only got a 1 year failure. We got grace. But what you typically see is, yeah, you can go ahead and appeal it yourself. We're not going to help you, and we're not going to put any funds associated with the rebuttal. What you'll see typically, and again, we've never experienced this, so this is all new to us. We've never experienced a failure as long as I've been in the district. And so what's happening is you'll see in the second year, if they were to say we were to fail, like their state value is different than local value, then the school district would probably get involved. I think they'll have Linebarger. Yeah, and they would get Linebarger involved, and they would help with the rebuttal.
Law firms don't participate in the first year study. They will help. They will help. They'll talk to you. They'll help you crunch numbers. The logistics of having a meeting with the comptroller now, post-COVID, is Zoom. It's you and there was maybe 6 of them. So they have a lawyer there that makes sure that everybody says everything exactly right all the time and gives the disclaimers at the beginning and at the end. And then they have a land person, a commercial person, a residential person, and then they have a manager. So maybe there's 5. And then the manager and you just kind of hash things out one-on-one. And then they tell you, just like if you were at an ARB with us, at the end, they say, we're going to give you an order. And in that order, it has paperwork if you wanted to sue us.
When did the PCAD results get entered or sent out versus when you guys submitted yours?
The PVS study results, they typically come in January, February of every year.
And then when did y'all submit yours?
When did we submit or
so
what?
In order to see the discrepancy, you submitted yours.
Oh,
On the PCAD.
Our submission is the certified.
Is the
Is
certified
so in
by
July or whatever.
July of 23.
Yeah,
July.
so July, and then they showed their cards when?
End of January.
End of January, early February of 24.
Yeah.
Okay.
Usually right at the end
You
of
would think
January.
that they would, I mean, it's basically showing the cards game.
It is,
And
yeah.
they're waiting to see
With
what you're
us-
gonna got, and then they're gonna try to argue. And it's,
Yeah, and then you run out of time
Yeah.
because then they say, hey, you're gonna get
with everything.
studied again if you don't pass, but calendar wise, there's no chance, right?
Yeah, because now you're into the next.
Yeah, so it's a bit of a, you just gotta do what you gotta do.
Couple follow-ups. Did we fail a certain category, say residential, commercial? Was it a certain category we failed?
Residential this is true, and I've said this at a previous meeting in different contexts. Residential wins the day by a large degree for Aransas County. It doesn't matter, APISD, RFISD. You can fail all the others by a large degree. If you're holding residential at a high degree, the stratification and the weight associated with category A, which is residential, will always prevail. And that's just the nature of the demographics and it's just the nature of the demographics of our county.
If you have say.
And I don't have that in front of me, so I don't know.
I understand. Say Mr. Lambert's house is one of the houses that the comptroller looks at.
Uh-huh.
But Mr. Lambert, but we gave him, the district gave him a value. He came back and he fought that value and he got it lowered.
He got it lowered.
He got it lowered, yes,
Gotcha.
the ARB lowered it. How does that fit into does the comptroller take that into account?
They're
Use
supposed,
that number.
they're supposed to use that number.
We have to, I'm sorry, go ahead, Mike, I'm sorry.
No, they're supposed to use that number. So theoretically, 500,000, he appeals, he gets 400,000. We get to show our notice value at 500,000, and they use our notice value as the value to work against, not the 400,000.
So, yeah, the frustrating thing, I just want to say this because this is frustrating from a working standpoint, is instead of them gathering that data on their own and just doing another data pull from us, what they do, because we've already sent out notices, so they have notice value. So then it goes to reason, more than likely something in the study will have had an ARB decision and a value change, right? But what they do is they give us the study without the results, and then they say, if you can find anything in here that has a new value, then you alert us of the change, and then you tell us why.
Okay.
So and that's what Mike was telling them this year that's kind of difficult, is they make you do that twice. So you submit, and then it comes back around and you submit again. And so it's like what would you say? It's just
It's a highly legal
paperwork process.
Yeah, high paperwork.
High paperwork.
It's a waste of people's time. Is all
Well,
it is.
it's a waste of a guy named Eamon Burke, one of our appraisers.
What about a question for clarification? And that is, prior chairperson Wright had said numerous occasions that we have failed previously. So you've been here 20 years and you're saying you've never failed in 20 years. So my question is, former chairperson Wright has told us on several occasions that we have failed in the past.
Oh,
And so
the district has failed in the past for sure. And it was through Jad's tenure. But I'm confused.
We never failed I want clarification.
I can say this for sure. When I was an early appraiser, I didn't pay attention to the PDS because I was just a grunt appraiser. But let me say this, from the time I've been a deputy chief and a chief, we have not failed.
Okay.
They've said we failed, we appealed and won, and that
Okay.
was in 19. That was in 19.
Yeah, 2013.
So I'm wanting to say then, so we do have some past history or precedents that we are able to follow to track how this is gonna move forward.
In regard to what?
Well, you were saying we have that this has never happened, but it has. And I'm just asking for clarification.
What's your question specifically? I'm not following you.
Well, I guess I was I understood it, like this is all brand new, we don't know what to expect, but that's not really true. That's all I'm trying to say is that we are able to get through this.
Thank you. So for clarification.
That's what I'm trying to ask.
Sure, for clarification, since I've been deputy chief and chief, we have not failed, and therefore I've not had to do the statutorily required declaration that hey guys, I'm alerting you that we failed.
Okay.
That's never happened. It's from deputy chief to chief.
Okay.
That's a 12-year period. So
Okay.
thank you for, and as far as looking back beyond that, I don't know. I mean,
Okay, that's all
I
I'm
do
asking.
know that it was with Jad. Jad was the chief appraiser at the time. And as far as me not knowing how that process worked, that statement's still true. This is new,
Yeah.
new for me.
For me, having only been here 3 years, I've heard that repeatedly. And so I was shocked right now when you said it never happened. Like, well, wait a minute, that's all, I've been told that numerous
Yeah, it was
times.
long
So I
time
just
ago.
needed you to clarify that with me.
Yeah,
It's
long
not
time ago.
happened since you've been deputy.
And I'd like to Mr. Barnes, had a conversation with Mr. Barnes, and Mr. Barnes informed me that right now they are a receiver of recapture money, but you are correct, like y'all receive money from the state. But you are being reviewed at this time to join the ranks of Rockport Fulton. And actually, the state is looking to make you a giver.
Now you can keep my fingers closed.
Keep your finger, so don't mention it. In other words, okay, because I was gonna ask what it meant to us.
I wouldn't argue the property taxes at this point. Stay in that area.
Okay,
So basically, but to put a bow on this, there's no penalty or anything, right?
No, we get what's called a local value, or APIC gets a local value for our apportionment. It's a split district, split ISD. What the penalty is what's called a targeted appraisal review. And they're doing that now. In 24, they are doing it again. They're saying, oh, you failed last time. We're gonna study you right now again to see that and so we won't know that result until January or early February of this 25.
That it kind of
Okay.
has the feeling of getting audited 3 times a year.
Right.
It's that kind of feeling. So there's like an intensity that you just don't really want, and it's just there.
Yeah,
It's kinda-
we hear all these things just out in public, like, oh, the school district's gonna have, massive, funding shortages and all this stuff, and it sounds to me like they're really gonna happen if you're like a repeat offender, right?
There is.
Well, I will say this, just for clarification, if we fail again, like we fail on probation, and you go to the second year and you fail again, then we get a reduction in fines from the state, because they say you should be getting more from your local values, and we're not gonna make that up with your state values, so we're kind of stuck in the middle, right?
Can I-
guys will be here with the state values.
I just wanna make sure we have clarification. Do we fail 2 times and then the state goes with their own value? Or can we fail 3 times and on the 3rd time, the state goes with their value?
I guess I would just answer with a blanket statement that, again, from my experience, I've never been through this before, so I would let the
Yes,
doctor
And
weigh
one,
in.
Because you have to pay for it, I think, probably.
Yeah.
That was just my clarification.
I think Jeff, and I'll be clear, the thing that gives, like me, for example, my anxiety is that when you fail, and then when you go into the next year, there's just no time. There's literally 3 months between finding out that you failed and sending out the next notices that you're gonna be studied on. And that's really like I think Matt's right, like there's been this sense of like failure means money. Sometimes for the appraisal district, what failure means is like it feels hopeless. It feels like we're not gonna be able to improve enough because of the decisions that have to be made in 3 months. Yeah, so.
No, thank you. I agree. We should have a workshop sometime so we come to clarity on ourselves and know what that's all about. So I'm gonna make a motion that we accept the report from Mr. Soto, the comptroller property value study.
Yeah, and there's no action. I don't believe there's any action.
I think we have to,
Discuss and take possible action.
yeah, I think we have to, as far as I know, the county, and I know this, when there's a report, they have to accept it, but if you want to take, just go ahead for.
It doesn't hurt to take
Yeah,
action.
let's just take action. So I say that we take action and I have a motion that we approve the comptroller property value study determination for APISD as submitted by Mr. Soto. Do I have a second? All in favor? All against? Okay, moving on to the next one. All items listed in this section will be deliberated in a closed session. Members of the public are not generally permitted to attend a closed session. Executive session items may be considered as an action item at the discretion of the chair. However, the board will not take any action in closed session. We are going to, Mr. Soto, we do need to speak to you at some point. I'm gonna make a motion that we go into closed session and we'll have a talk and then we'll bring you in because I'm sure we have some questions for him. And so if you can't run away, and I promise not to leave you out there for a long time.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
So motion to adjourn at 5:29.
No, well, I can't do that. I need to make a motion that we go into executive session. Do I have a second? All right, all in favor? All opposed? Okay. All right, we are going into executive session. 5:29. Mr. Barnes, thank you, sir. And, when we have this workshop, I'll be sure, because I want to make sure that we're clear about the process.